Porque me understand.
Hi, I'm Jose Armando and welcome to my oral/video presentation regarding Martin Luther's open letter on translating, which I described as a rampaging rant, which you'll later come to see why I did such. Before I get started, I'd like to thank for and appreciate the opportunity of being able to do this presentation through this method, which to me is much better than a presential mask-to-mask presentation. Like, both have its pros and cons, and both seem to suit different types of people. We're all different after all. I'd also like to point out to the fact that my presentation is really based on memes, which I see as a powerful social tool that we've all come to love more and more. I speak on my behalf, at least. Right on then, it's showtime. So, who was Martin Luther? And no, I'm not talking about Martin Luther King Jr., the American preacher, of course, that one, famous for his I Have a Dream speech, but I'm sure you wouldn't make this mistake, right? I'm just kidding. As you may recall from previous history lessons, or not, Martin Luther was a professor of theology, he was a priest, he was an author, he was a composer, he was an Augustinian monk, he was a seminal figure of utmost importance in the Reformation, and, surprise, surprise, he was a translator as well. Who would have thought? He was born on the 10th November 1483 in the small town of Lutherstadt Eisleben in Germany, the same place where he'd later die in 1546, aged 62. Pay tribute to them. The town adopted his name, literally translates to Luther City, Eiswife. Kind of random name if you ask me. But yeah, it just goes to show how creative and ingenious Germans are with their names. They also built a statue right on the central square, if I'm not mistaken. Never been there, I'd like to. Look at that, looking good. In 1507, he became a priest for the Catholic Church. He rejected most of their ideals, mainly those regarding indulgences, which were ways, paid ways of course, to reduce the amount of punishment one would get before God. An indulgence is a remission before God of the temporal punishment due to sins whose guilt has already been forgiven. Out of pure chance, or not, St. Peter's Basilica in Rome required rebuilding at that time.
Boom! Big reveal!
This meant, of course, that money was urgently needed. So what did they do? They sell more and more indulgences, of course. Martin Luther even wrote in 1517 a document explaining his point of view regarding indulgences. 95 Theses, as it was called, is a written list of propositions, obviously expressing his lack of contentment, namely how he saw it as an abuse of the practice of clergy, and stating Luther's words, salvation is free and one does not have to do anything, much less pay anything to obtain it. 95 Theses was, of course, rejected by the church, which was starting to see that he was getting a little bit too much informed on the matter. So, what happens when someone knows too much about anything, especially something vile and twisted, and starts talking too much? He gets killed? No, he gets expelled from the priesthood, of course. That's precisely what happened. In 1521, the Diet of Worms takes place, and no, that's not something that birds would eat. That's the name of the assembly housed in the city of Worms, or should I say Worms, as it is pronounced in German. And here Martin Luther was excommunicated, or simply put, expelled by Pope Leo X from the Catholic Church and he was even condemned as an outlaw by the Holy Roman Emperor. All of this just because he defended the truth and justice among all. I'll say. Fun fact, Pope Leo X is also the same guy that is present in that famous meme, Why Though? And you just have to Google Pope Leo X and you immediately get this portrait. I mean, who on their perfect state of mind looked at this and thought, this is a good portrait, yes, marvelous. I would never know. Outraged, Martin Luther began to teach his theology and even created his own religion. Lutheranism, as he called it, was a separate branch of Protestantism, and he defended that the Bible was the only source of divinely revealed knowledge, as opposed to sacerdotalism that defended priests as being the mediators between God and humankind. So, to successfully spread Lutheranism even more, Martin Luther translated the New Testament in 1522 and later the whole Bible in 1534. He translated it from the original one in Latin to Greek and then to German, which obviously required a lot of work, and since it was Luther doing it, such work was not properly recognized, and in fact was heavily criticized by papists, those that didn't follow his ideologies. If you ask me, I don't know why he would translate it from Latin, then to Greek, then to German. I mean, I know it would cause a lot of struggle to translate from Latin to German directly, but I don't know why I would have to go through Greek. It's 1530, he wrote an open letter on translating Ein Sendbrief von Dolmetschen, as it is originally entitled. Now you'll see why I described it as a rampaging rant. He even addresses them, the papists, as asses. Not even joking here. The first issue he addresses is the fact that he added the word alone on Romans 3:28, and how it was seen as a great plus amongst the papists. They even went to say that changing the words of God was wrong and should be condemned. He continues by questioning their ability to translate and even speak German. He says that they are in fact learning to speak and write from him, Martin Luther, thus stealing his language, as he says by his own words. He says, and I quote, "I know quite well how much skill, hard work, understanding, and intelligence is needed for a good translation." Which is true. Unfortunately, translating is a demanding and difficult task that is not adequately appreciated, especially not in that time, as I can assume. He then refers to a certain bungler from Dresden without stating his actual name. Now, I've tried to research about this mysterious individual. However, there is little to no information whatsoever on the internet regarding him. In fact, I would strongly advise you not to Google bungler from Dresden. Yeah, don't. Anyways, this anonymous character basically took Luther's translation of the New Testament, removed his prefaces and glosses, and replaced them with his own, thus publishing it on his own name, and taking all the credit, of course. Martin Luther clearly expresses his anguish, justifiably though, pretty much, as the bungler's translation was praised, while Luther's translation was heavily criticized, despite them being basically the same. "I will brag over these asses of mine. They are doctors, me too. They are scholars, I am as well. They are philosophers, and I. They are dialecticians, I am too. They are lecturers, so am I. They write books, so do I." So he goes on defying their intelligence, questioning their understanding of Aristotle, as he even says, if any one of them can correctly understand one part of chapter of Aristotle, I will eat my hat. Can you imagine Martin Luther just going like, this is delicious. An ass truly does not have tossing much, as he's already known for his years. He refers to the struggle and difficulty when adapting the text from Latin to German. Basically did this whole Latin to Greek to German translation in order to obtain a more pure, naturally sounding German translation. Literal Latin is a great barrier to speaking proper German. Translator must have a large vocabulary so he can have more words for when a particular one does not fit the context. And I'll go as far to say that that's what distinguishes a good translator from an average one. I have learned what an art and job translating is by experience. I will not tolerate some papal ass immune as my critic or judge. As part of the text, Luther focuses more on the religious part rather than the actual translation, and even gives a sort of sermon. He mentions how everyone should be united by the power of God and faith and Christianity or Christendom, as he describes it. But in reality, papists were just spreading fake teachings and deceiving lies about religion. The law is condemned and cursed before God. He defends that Christ's death and resurrection should be their work. They want to give to Christendom the damage caused by their own negligence. This could also explain that they defended indulgences, regardless of how horrible the lies involved. So out with it, you papal asses, say that this is the teaching of Christendom. These stinking lies which you villains and traitors have forced upon Christendom, and for the sake of which you murderers have killed many Christians. Understandably, though, he was really irritated because he was so mistreated by the church when he only wanted to spread a more Puritan, more legit message across their believers. And in reality, he wanted to stop corruption, inequality, and not just equality around the world overall, but that's kind of a utopic idea. I guess he was a small fish swimming amongst the sharks. And what happens then? Small fish gets eaten. That concludes my oral/video presentation. I'd just like to thank once more this opportunity, and I think video presentations are kind of cool in the sense that one could go back and watch it all over again in case he or she has doubts, or to even study for the test, who knows. Alright, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, cheers.